Shalom, family. This is Brother Lai, and I want to thank you for joining me in this, our first discussion of the Ten Commandments. And I saw a need to explore the Ten Commandments in detail because I found that they're often overlooked by the body in our desire to seek out what we perceive to be the deeper matters of Scripture. However, we cannot chew on the meat of the Word unless we are first properly nourished from the milk of the Word. With that being said, I want to assure you that there is tremendous depth contained in the Ten Commandments, and we will discover that together as we progress through this series. Before we begin, a quick proviso. Always remember to study for yourself in accordance with 2 Timothy chapter 2 and verse 15. Confirm all things with the Word. So again, today we'll be diving into the first commandment, its historical implications, and its application today. So let's go to Exodus chapter 20 and begin our study. Exodus chapter 20 verses 1 through 3. And Elohim spake all these words, saying, I am YAH thy Elohim, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. So, what does it mean exactly? Yah demands that we worship Him alone. And we can take a look at the last two words of the commandment in Hebrew to get a quick confirmation. The phrase is al panea, which can be translated as before my face or in my presence. So in other words, we do not worship Yah in concert with other Elohim, which is a Hebrew word which means mighty ones, gods, or deities. Now that seems pretty simple, right? Yet our ancestors couldn't wait to run out and worship other gods just as soon as Moses had turned his back. So let's discuss the golden calf incident. I'll paraphrase the story here, but you can read about it in detail in Exodus chapter 32. So after giving the law to the people and facilitating the covenant, Moses went up to Mount Sinai to enter into deeper communion with the Most High. Not long after Moses had left the people in the care of Aaron, the high priest, the people approached Aaron and demanded that he create gods to go before them. So Aaron took all their gold jewelry, fashioned it into a golden calf, and took it upon himself to declare a feast. And the people began to offer sacrifices before this idol. Yah saw it, Yah being Yah, and he informed Moses of what was going on. Moses went down the mountain, rebuked the people, ground the idols into gold powder, and made the people drink the gold powder, probably to show them that these idols that they were worshiping had absolutely no power. This is a picture from the foot of the mountain in Saudi Arabia known as Jebel al-Lawz. It's the actual location of Mount Sinai. In here you can see archaeological evidence of the worship of a golden calf. Now, here's the question. Why did Aaron make a calf to represent deity? Well, he was steeped in the religious traditions and doctrines of Egypt. Here's a picture of Hathor, an Egyptian goddess. She was considered by the Egyptians to be a goddess of the sky, of women, of fertility, and love. Now, according to encyclopedia.com, Hathor is often represented as a cow or a calf. So, it's logical to conclude that Aaron was seeking to recreate a deity that he was familiar with from Egypt. In other words, Hathor. So apparently, that first commandment wasn't so easy to keep back then. No discussion on the matter of idolatry will be complete without a discussion of Moloch. So the worship of Moloch was quite prevalent in the ancient world, so much so that Yah specifically forbade the worship of this false god in particular, and with good reason. Let's read about it in the law. Leviticus chapter 18 verse 21, and thou shalt not let any of thy seed pass through the fire to Molech, neither shalt thou profane the name of thy Elohim. I am Yah. So here's an entry on Moloch according to encyclopedia.com. Let's read about it. Moloch or Molech was a god to whom some cultures of the ancient Near East sacrificed children. Some scholars have identified Moloch with Melkort, a god worshipped in the city of Tyre on the eastern coast of the Mediterranean Sea. Roman sources state that a sculpture of Moloch stood in Carthage, a city in northern Africa. The people who performed the sacrifices there placed children on the outstretched hands of the statue, and the children fell through to the fire below. According to the Bible, the law given to Moses by the supreme God Yahweh prohibited the Jews from sacrificing children to Moloch. Nevertheless, King Solomon introduced the cult of Moloch into Israel, but a later king banned worship of the god. Moloch's shrine was located at a site outside Jerusalem named Gehenna, which some Christians used as another name for hell. So, Moloch was definitely bad news. It was King Solomon, the son of David, who introduced the cult of Moloch into Israel. Let's confirm that with the scriptures. 1 Kings chapter 11 verses 4 through 8. For it came to pass, when Solomon was old, that his wives turned away his heart after other gods, and his heart was not perfect with YAH his Elohim, as was the heart of David his father. For Solomon went after Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Zidonians, and after Milcom, the abomination of the Ammonites. And Solomon did evil in the sight of YAH, and went not fully after YAH, as did David his father. Then did Solomon build an high place for Chemosh, the abomination of Moab, in the hill that is before Jerusalem, and for Molech, the abomination of the children of Ammon. And likewise did he for all his strange wives, which burnt incense and sacrificed unto their gods. King Solomon brought spiritual calamity to Israel by introducing this specific form of idolatry, the worship of Moloch. Now, it was King Josiah, the great reformer, who destroyed the altar of Moloch and banned his worship. Let's read about it. 2 Kings chapter 23 and verse 10. And he, King Josiah, defiled Topheth, which is in the valley of the children of Hinnom, that no man might make his son or daughter to pass through the fire to Molech. So idolatry and child sacrifice was indeed a common occurrence in those days in Israel. Funny thing though, there's something about the human condition that blinds us to our own hypocrisy. See, we look at idolatry in the form of child sacrifice in the scriptures and we find ourselves so aghast at it. But we fail to see its modern iteration in our world, in our time. With that being said, let's explore what idolatry looks like today. Let's set the stage for this part of our discussion by returning to an important commandment in Torah. Deuteronomy chapter 12, verses 28 to 32. Observe and hear all these words which I command thee, that it may go well with thee, and with thy children after thee forever, when thou doest that which is good and right in the sight of YAH thy Elohim. When YAH thy Elohim shall cut off the nations from before thee, whither thou goest to possess them, and thou succeedest them and dwellest in their land. Take heed to thyself, that thou be not snared by following after them, after that they be destroyed from before thee, and that thou inquire not after their gods, saying, how did these nations serve their gods? Even so will I do likewise. Thou shalt not do so unto YAH thy Elohim, for every abomination to YAH which he hateth have they done unto their gods, for even their sons and their daughters they have burnt in the fire to their gods. What things soever I command you, observe to do it. Thou shalt not add thereunto, nor diminish from it. In other words, do not look at how other cultures worship their gods and reappropriate their forms of worship in a vain attempt to honor YAH. Whatever YAH says, do that, and do not add to or take away from it. Which brings us to Christmas. There is absolutely no biblical evidence that Yeshua was born on December 25th. However, there is ample evidence that the celebration called Christmas did not originate with the birth of Messiah. Let's get into it with a discussion of a cute little festival called Yule. Here's what the secular historians have to say about Christmas. How did Christmas start? The middle of winter has long been a time of celebration around the world. Centuries before the arrival of a man called Jesus, or Yeshua, early Europeans celebrated light and birth in the darkest days of winter. Many peoples rejoiced during the winter solstice, when the worst of the winter was behind them and they could look forward to longer days and extended hours of sunlight. In Scandinavia, the Norse celebrated Yule from December 21st, the winter solstice, through January. In recognition of the return of the sun, fathers and sons would bring home large logs, which they would set on fire. The people would feast until the log burned out, which could take as many as 12 days. The Norse believed that each spark from the fire represented a new pig or calf that would be born during the coming year. Remember that song, The 12 Days of Christmas? That comes from Yule. Now, while we're discussing songs, let's bring up another one. Here's one you may remember. Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Make the Yuletide gay. See, everything to do with paganism and nothing to do with Messiah. Also, we don't eat pigs. Neither did Messiah. Let's continue. The end of December was a perfect time for celebration in most areas of Europe. At that time of year, most cattle were slaughtered so they would not have to be fed during the winter. For many, it was the only time of year when they had a supply of fresh meat. In addition, most wine and beer made during the year was finally fermented and ready for drinking. In Germany, people honored the pagan god Odin during the midwinter holiday. Germans were terrified of Odin, as they believed he made nocturnal flights through the sky to observe his people and then decide who would prosper or perish. Because of his presence, many people chose to stay inside. Okay, so hold on. Let me get this straight. The Norse god Odin would fly through the air at night in order to determine who's been naughty and who's been nice. Man, that sounds awfully familiar. But you know what? I'm sure that's just another crazy coincidence. You know what? Let's chat about Saturnalia. Saturnalia. In Rome, where winters were not as harsh as those in the far north, Saturnalia, a holiday in honor of Saturn, the god of agriculture, was celebrated. Beginning in the week leading up to the winter solstice and continuing for a full month, Saturnalia was a hedonistic time when food and drink were plentiful and the normal Roman social order was turned upside down. For a month, slaves would become masters. Peasants were in command of the city. Businesses and schools were closed so that everyone could join in the fun. Also, around that time of the winter solstice, Romans observed Juvenalia, a feast honoring the children of Rome. In addition, members of the upper classes often celebrated the birthday of Mithra, the god of the unconquerable sun, on December 25th. It was believed that Mithra, an infant god, was born of a rock. For some Romans, Mithra's birthday was the most sacred day of the year. December 25th, the birthday of Mithra. These coincidences just keep stacking up. Crazy. Let's keep digging. Is Christmas really the day Jesus was born? In the early years of Christianity, Easter was the main holiday. The birth of Jesus, or Yeshua, was not celebrated. In the 4th century, Church officials decided to institute the birth of Jesus as a holiday. Unfortunately, the Bible does not mention the date for his birth, a fact that Puritans later pointed out in order to deny the legitimacy of the celebration of Christmas. Although some evidence suggests that his birth may have occurred in the spring, after all, why would shepherds be herding in the middle of winter? Pope Julius I chose December 25th. It is commonly believed that the Church chose this date in an effort to adopt and absorb the traditions of the pagan Saturnalia festival. First called the Feast of the Nativity, the custom spread to Egypt by 432 and to England by the end of the 6th century. So there you have it according to history. These practices did not originate with Messiah. They're ancient pagan traditions that have been reappropriated. Let's see what the scriptures have to say about a practice commonly associated with Christmas: buying and decking out a Christmas tree. Jeremiah chapter 10 verses 1 through 5. Hear ye the word which YAH speaketh unto you, O house of Israel. Thus saith YAH, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. For the customs of the people are vain. For one cutteth a tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of the workmen with the axe. They deck it with silver and with gold. They fasten it with nails and with hammers that it move not. They are upright as the palm tree, but speak not. They must needs to be born, because they cannot go. Be not afraid of them, for they cannot do evil, neither also is it in them to do good. None of these things is new. Okay, cutting trees down and decorating them, that's an ancient pagan tradition. It's old enough that Jeremiah pointed it out. All right, you have to question everything and you have to be wary. So since we're poking at everyone's sacred cows, let's talk about Thanksgiving. I bet you didn't know that Thanksgiving was an ancient pagan tradition, huh? That's okay. You don't have to believe me. Believe the historians. Thanksgiving's ancient origins. Although the American concept of Thanksgiving developed in the colonies of New England, its roots can be traced back to the other side of the Atlantic. Both the separatists who came over on the Mayflower and the Puritans who arrived soon after brought with them a tradition of providential holidays, days of fasting during difficult or pivotal moments, and days of feasting and celebration to thank God in times of plenty. As an annual celebration of the harvest and its bounty, moreover, Thanksgiving falls under a category of festivals that spans cultures, continents, and millennia. In ancient times, the Egyptians, Greeks, and Romans feasted and paid tribute to their gods after the fall harvest. Thanksgiving also bears a resemblance to the ancient Jewish harvest festival of Sukkot. Finally, historians have noted that Native Americans had a rich tradition of commemorating the fall harvest with feasting and merrymaking long before Europeans set foot on their shores. Thanksgiving is an ancient pagan festival given a new coat of paint, just like Christmas. Celebrating these things is a violation of the first commandment. Now, I recognize that this is a difficult thing to accept if you've spent a lifetime celebrating these feasts. However, I implore you to explore the scriptures shared and remove all things that stand between you and Yah. Finally, let's discuss the penalty for idolatry. Deuteronomy chapter 13. We're going to read verses 1 through 5. If there arise among you a prophet or a dreamer of dreams, and giveth thee a sign or a wonder, and the sign or the wonder come to pass, whereof he spake unto thee, saying, let us go after other gods which thou hast not known, and let us serve them. Thou shalt not hearken unto the words of that prophet or that dreamer of dreams, for Yah your Elohim proveth you, to know whether you love Yah your Elohim with all your heart and with all your soul. Ye shall walk after Yah your Elohim and fear him, and keep his commandments and obey his voice, and ye shall serve him and cleave unto him. And that prophet or that dreamer of dreams shall be put to death, because he hath spoken to turn you away from Yah your Elohim, which brought you out of the land of Egypt and redeemed you out of the house of bondage, to thrust thee out of the way which Yah thy Elohim commanded thee to walk in. So shalt thou put the evil away from the midst of thee. So a false prophet preaching idolatry would have received the death penalty in the times of Moses. Let's continue. Deuteronomy chapter 13, verses 6 through 11. If thy brother, the son of thy mother, or thy son, or thy daughter, or the wife of thy bosom, or thy friend, which is as thine own soul, entice thee secretly, saying, Let us go and serve other gods which thou hast not known, nor thy fathers, namely the gods of the people which are round about you, nigh unto thee, or far off from thee, from the one end of the earth even unto the other end of the earth. Thou shalt not consent unto him, nor hearken unto him, neither shall thine eye pity him. Neither shalt thou spare, neither shalt thou conceal him, but thou shalt surely kill him. Thine hand shall be first upon him to put him to death, and afterward the hand of all the people. And thou shalt stone him with stones that he die, because he hath sought to thrust thee away from Yah thy Elohim, which brought thee out of the land of Egypt from the house of bondage. And all Israel shall hear and fear, and shall do no more any such wickedness as this among you. So family members are tempting you into idolatry, brick, shower. You were to be the first to cast the stone. Perspective check though. Do we take it upon ourselves to enact capital punishment within our community today? Of course not. In this dispensation, we leave the final judgment to Yah, but the purpose of sharing the severity of the penalty is to draw attention to the gravity of the offense. Yah takes idolatry very seriously. So should you. So what's the conclusion of the matter? Yah said, You shall have no other Elohim before me. What this means is that we do not worship Yah in concert with other gods. We do not participate in pagan festivals and attempt to rededicate them to Yah. We recognize the various forms that transgression of the first commandment takes, both in antiquity and in modern times. We do not compromise the word of Yah, ever. That's it. I thank you for joining me in our discussion of the first of the 10 commandments, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. And if this video was a blessing to you, please share it with someone else to whom it would be a blessing. I give all praises to the Most High, and great honor and glory to Yeshua HaMashiach, King of Kings. Again, thank you for your time. Shalom, family.